Okay, I think we can start. I will ask to everybody that are not speaking if they can shut the microphone so we will not have any interferences. So, hello everybody. Today we are here with the students of the Seaglider Center. They will present us the design and impact of a student run lab with Sasha Seroy, Lydia Kelley, and Victoria DeJong. But probably you are wondering, who am I? You are seeing a new face. In fact, before it was Yves Ponson presenting all the Ego webinars. I just joined the team, and my name is Maria Rita Caracciolo. I have a PhD in Marine Ecology and Biodiversity, and I joined them in January as a coordinator of Ego and as a technical coordinator of the Oceanglider program at Oceanops in Brest in France. So one of my first tasks that I took is to build the Ego Core group, to establish and leading this Ego Core group. Some of the people are already joining this group, and I want to say that the main important thing here about this group is that we don't want to duplicate any effort. We want to work in collaboration with UG2 and with Ocean Gliders, and I think today's webinars that is featuring as a US group is a testimony of our commitment to international cooperation. And we want to bring the glider community together and to ensure that is more inclusive, more dynamic, and that all the users have what they need. And so if you feel you can bring any valuable contribution to this initiative, you are more than welcome to join us. Just send me an email and you can participate. One also of the task that I have in this new role is to do a rebranding of what it was Ego before, and to work in collaboration with the core group. One of the first tasks will be to well define the service that we propose together with UG2, like all the information and best practices about glider, forums that we have, the Slack from UG2 and the GitHub from Ocean Gliders. We will take this back into our hands to revitalize it, and then the webinars, of course, that we will continue to do. In general, we want with this network and with the new group to promote fair data practices and to develop technical tools that can assist all the community. So I'm working of a new website, a new name. If you have any suggestion, please feel free to send me anything regarding this. It's welcome. And I leave the word now to the Student Seaglider Centers and to Sasha.
Marita, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and let me know if you can see that. All right. How does that look?
Yes, all good.
Awesome. We're really honored that we were invited to speak with you all today and share our program that's really student focused here at University of Washington. So we'll be talking about our Student Seaglider Center and the design and impact of this student-run lab. My name is Sasha Seroy. I am one of the advisors of the Student Seaglider Center. I'm an assistant teaching professor here in the University of Washington, and I run our ocean technology program, which is a predominantly undergraduate training program, lots of courses in design, build of your own sensors, and also using ocean instrumentation. And I'm joined here with two of my undergraduate students, Lydia, Kelley, and Victoria DeJong, which I'm honored to be here with, and they've been really important driving forces of this initiative. So we'll talk for about 30 minutes, and then we'd love to take questions and feedback and any kind of comments that you all have about how this could potentially be a model or how it fits in what you all are thinking about. So just to provide some history and context, so our program is called the Student Seaglider Center, and it is entirely student run. And so that means that all of the work from the repair and maintenance of gliders to piloting and using those gliders and analyzing the data is all student directed. We have advisors that help guide the students, but everything is very student run. And so we started this in spring 2022, and we had 5 donated Seagliders. And now we've been in operation for almost 3 years. And this picture here is our initial student group that we were able to pilot our first Seaglider in May 2023. So you can see it took us about a year to kind of figure out how do we organize the students, how do we get one of our donated gliders to be a functional glider, and then actually deploy it. And so we're lucky to be here at the University of Washington, where the glider community is pretty big and we have lots of local resources and expertise to draw on. So we had the former Seaglider Fabrication Center lab, which folks might be familiar with, at University of Washington, as well as mentors that were associated with that lab to help start this program. So we are able to kind of use that former space and repurpose it to a student lab. So we had space, we had 5 donated gliders locally from UW in the Applied Physics Lab. And so that was kind of a good spot for us to start. And our main goals are really to provide students with these hands-on, real-world, and applied experiences where they can really get meaningful scientific and technical expertise. So I just want to give you guys a sense of the structure. So the way that we run this is it's basically a class that students can register for repeatedly. So we established a specific class that is for the Student Seaglider Center. They get course credit and they can register. The class is set up so that it's repeatable and it's variable credit. So students can register every quarter. At University of Washington, we're on the quarter system, so it's 10 weeks in the fall and then in the winter and in the spring, as opposed to 2 semesters. So they can register every quarter for anywhere from 1 to 5 credits. And they max out at 15 credits total over their entire undergraduate career. And the number of credits is related to how many hours of work that they put in per week for the lab. And so we have this allows us to kind of engage students long term. So it's a class. It feels like there are some expectations for that. And that students can take it every quarter so that they can remain with us and build up their confidence and their skills for a longer period of time. And so we have weekly lab meetings as a whole group, and then that's about an hour a week. And then to fill out those extra hours, depending on how many credits they register, they have smaller group meetings throughout the week or time in the lab where they're working on the gliders. And this wouldn't be possible without our really awesome mentoring team. And so we're really fortunate to have some seasoned experts, which you guys may recognize. Fritz Starr, who's currently at Open Ocean Robotics, but is an affiliate professor here at UW, also the former manager of the Seaglider Fabrication Center. He provides a lot of technical support and was really important in getting students trained in that initial year with all of the technical expertise. I provide a lot of the educational design and logistics and organization and supporting student projects. Rick Rupan is also local, and he's in our Argo Float Lab right next door to the Student Seaglider Center lab. He also provides a lot of technical support for the students in the lab. And of course, Charlie Erickson, who is a professor emeritus here in the school, has donated a lot of time to helping students learn how to pilot and work with us on some of our science questions. So we have lots of mentor support for this project. So in terms of student engagement, we started in 2022. We had 10 total students. And since then, we've grown a lot. We've had 37 students total who've participated. And that includes 3 graduate students and 34 undergraduate students. So we've had lots of engagement and lots of interest. And so I looked at some of the student data, and generally students spend about 3 to 4 quarters with us throughout their their kind of educational career. So that's about 9 to 12 months or a full academic year or an academic year and a half. And usually they spend 1 or 2 credits per quarter working with us. So they're doing working on extended projects throughout the year. And I think one thing that is really exciting to us is that we have students from a variety of different majors. So we've been able to attract a lot of students from earth and ocean sciences, so geosciences, but we also have students from engineering, from life sciences, from the social sciences, computer and data sciences, and students who are undeclared. So our current cohort is 16 students, and we will be growing that as we start the next quarter. We're just finishing up our winter quarter here. So you can see that students kind of come from everywhere and can engage with us in lots of different ways. And we have a really clear structure on how students engage with us and what their roles are, so that it's really clear what the expectations are when they join. They join as part of one of these 3 teams. So we have our science team, our technical team, and our business team. And the science team really is working on developing the science goals for the group. What are our big projects going to be? What are our hypotheses and research questions? Really running what are our missions, planning missions, piloting gliders, and then what do we do with the data? And then we have our technical team, which they are responsible for servicing the gliders, making sure that they are ready to go in the field and that everything's working and that all the sensors are calibrated and working. And then we have our business team, which is responsible for funding and budgeting and any kind of communications that we do and outreach. So we have lots of different types of roles for students, which really allows those students from different majors to find a spot that they're happy here on in our program. And so we also have different levels of student leadership. So when students join, they'll join at the associate level, and we give everybody a job title so that they feel like, one, they know what they're doing and they know what the expectations are, but also gives them something that they can put on their resume that reflects what they did. So they have a title and they can join at the associate level. So we have science associates, technical associates, and business associates. And then for our science team, we're kind of split into 2 arms. One, we have a mission planning lead, and that person makes sure that everything is set whenever we have a mission, that we have a written up plan and they've come up with a template and everything that needs to be filled out. And then we have our data management lead, which Lydia is actually our data management lead, and she'll talk more about that. And then we have our chief scientist, and that is the student who oversees all of the science that we do. And currently that is a graduate student. So that has been a really nice position for her, Katie Coleman, to really get a sense for what overseeing a lab that runs AUVs is like. And that's something that she's interested in doing in her career. So it's giving her an opportunity to do that. And then we have our technical team, kind of similar structure, where we have a chief engineer who's overseeing that team. And then we have our 2 arms, our field operations lead, and that person is really making sure that we have all of our boat time secured and that the gliders are ready to go, and our service lead, which is doing repairs and making sure that the gliders are functioning. And on our business team, we also have our chief business officer and our business associates. And so this allows students to move up in leadership as they stay with us longer and learn more skills and become more confident in what they know. And each quarter, each team kind of develops a plan for their quarter and a timeline. And as part of that course credit that they are registered for, they have to submit weekly progress reports so that we know what every student is working on. And then we meet once a week, and each of the team leads will share out progress and make sure that everybody is kind of on the same page. And then they fill out their extra hours by meeting in their respective teams, and then we come together during our group meeting. And so we have a lot of people on all of these teams, and so we communicate using Discord and shared documentation in Google Drive and in Notion so that we can keep everybody up to date with what folks are working on in the lab or planning a mission or things like that. So I will share a little bit about the business team. Um, they run all of our fundraising and budgeting. And so, as you guys know, running gliders is not cheap. And we were fortunate enough to get some donated gliders. So we didn't need the funds to buy our own gliders, but we did need parts, batteries, bladders, new sensors, calibrations, things like that. And so we have an internal awards that students can apply for through the University of Washington Student Technology Fee. And so our business team has successfully written 2 proposals to that group, and we've been awarded about $85,000, which has been huge for us to get new parts and to be able to have ship time for our small boats that the students are deploying gliders locally. They also do outreach where they've worked with high school groups to share with them what gliders are. And you can see some of our students here with our glider hull showing K-12 groups and open houses, what we do and how the gliders work. And then they also work on our communications and media. So any campus news publications that want to write about student research, and they also publish a newsletter to share with our collaborators about what they're doing. So now I want to hand it over to Victoria, who's going to talk about the tech team and what she does on the tech team and how all of that works.
Hi, thank you, Sasha, and thanks for having us. I'm really excited to be here. So I joined the Seaglider group this year, and I'm a member of the tech team as an associate. So one thing, as Sasha pointed out, is that we have students coming from a variety of backgrounds. So while we have some engineering and oceanography students like myself in oceanography, who have had experience with ocean technology, a lot of us have zero experience. But we're leaving with hands-on skills related that can serve us in a variety of jobs. Some of the general skills that we're building here include, excuse me, maintaining documentation, effective communication and collaboration on teams, and just managing moving parts within a larger project. Technical specific skills that could serve us in engineering jobs or ocean tech jobs include troubleshooting, bench testing, circuitry and electrical experience, and calibrating sensors. And then we also are getting really specific glider skills that will prepare us to be glider technicians in the future, which is really unique at our undergraduate level to get our hands inside of a glider. So that includes repairing gliders and experience with ballasting. But most of all, what I think is really notable, especially as a non-traditional student that's coming with a lot of work experience, is how much space there is for independent problem solving, which doesn't always occur at this undergraduate level. So, yeah. Thanks, Sasha. So as Sasha mentioned, we have kind of 2 arms of the tech team. So that first one is service and repair. So we did start with 5 non-functional gliders, and today we have 3 fully optional gliders. And one of them is dissected on our workbench right now. But when I asked Rick, our one of our mentors, Rick Frupon, what he thought our most impressive accomplishment to date was, it was just getting 1 glider fully operational in the water. And last year we did a mission with 3 gliders in the water at the same time, which is what I understand to be a really truly incredible feat. So we've done this by overhauling all of them. We have fully disassembled the full suite. We've replaced all the batteries and all of the bladders, and then we have replaced different sensors and installed different sensors on individual gliders. And we've done this with incredible resources. As Sasha mentioned, we have a variety of mentors that all fill specific niches. Some are career professionals that have worked with gliders for decades, like Fritz and Charlie, while others are like Sasha and Rick work with us a little bit more closely and have a lot of general knowledge that serves us. And then also we inherited a lot of documentation with this lab space. So some of this has been kind of problem solving, trying to see where the documentation needs to be updated, and some trial and error on our part. All right. And then the other arm, my favorite is the field operations. Like this is truly unique experience that we have deployed. We've done 9 deployments on our own. We've done a total of 10. The first one was mentored. Otherwise, the rest have been completely student organized and ran. So 10 local deployments, excuse me, that have spanned 1 to 2 days, and then one current open ocean deployment that Lydia will describe more. That one's really exciting. And we've done this through our pre-deployment planning, including ballasting. We do all the calculations for ballasting and the test it in our saltwater tank. And then our team lead manages all of the deployment logistics, including setting up, communicating with the captains to get ship time and ensuring safety protocols are met. And then there's a really important piece of communicating between the science and the tech team during employments to ensure that the science goals are being met and that we're in the right at the right coordinates. So most of all, this is really exciting for everyone on the team, whether you're science or business or tech, has the opportunity to get in the water and get field experience on a boat, which again is really unique at this stage. So this is a color-coded flow chart that our team lead, our field operations team lead, Ziggy, put together that gives you a wider sense of how interconnected these teams are and how we've also isolated the various separate responsibilities. So this is a resource that we return back to quite often. And with this, I'm going to pass it off to Lydia so she can share some of the really exciting and groundbreaking science that we're working on.
Hi, I'm Lydia. I'm the data lead at the lab, and I've been here for about 2 years now. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the science team does and then some of our past and present research. So the main thing we do is plan our missions. This starts with a scientific research question and then piloting the gliders, as you can see in this picture on the left. Then we analyze the data and present our findings. In the picture on the right, myself and our chief scientist, Katie Coleman, are presenting at IUGC. And Dan Hayes is also pictured. He generously donated to the center, so we were able to go and present there. So this is just a little overview of some of our local and open ocean research. Like Victoria said, we had a triple glider mission last May, and here we were looking at the influences of tidal mixing on circulation in the Puget Sound. And we presented this at IUGC as well as UG2. Right now we're working on our tropics mission, which is looking at the dynamics with the leading front of tropical instability waves, and we have a couple different projects coming out of this. I'm looking at a half-century comparison of temperature and salinity in the tropical Pacific, and one of our science associates, Catherine, is looking at the stratification across the tropical instability waves. We've also had several training deployments in the Puget Sound to train both pilots and our field team. So now a little more about our triple glider mission. This was the inaugural study from the Student Seaglider Center, and it was done locally in the Puget Sound, which is a fjord-like estuary for those who are not familiar. We zero in on Colville's Passage because it's a unique area where the current always flows north no matter where it's at in its tidal cycle. So we wanted to look at the circulation of water from Colville's Passage into the main basin. And to do so, we used 3 gliders, each deployed at the X marks on that plot there. The green and blue glider tracks are both deployed at the same spot. And from this mission, we were able to get a density signature and then determine where the water in Colville's Passage is going. We have our blue glider going west of Blake Island, and then our green glider going east of Blake Island. And that brings us to these plots. We have depth on the y-axis, time on the x-axis, and then our color bar is temperature, salinity, and density on the bottom. That black line in the middle is marking when the glider is exiting Colville's Passage. And the highlighted area is our temperature and salinity signature of Colville's. So we can tell from these plots that the blue track matches the signature of Colville's Passage with some deviation at the surface, but mostly water west of Lake Island is coming from Colville's Passage. Then we have these same plots for our green glider. Here we can see that the green track matches the Colville's signature at the intermediate and deep depths. So Colville's water is flowing east of Lake Island into the intermediate/deep layer. And then finally, we have our red track, which is looking at how much of the Colville's water is going into the main basin, particularly in the southern direction. So the red track is consistent with the Colville's signature in the intermediate layer. So to wrap that all up, we have water west of Lake Island, mostly made up from Colville's, then water east of Lake Island, first going into the deep and intermediate layer, and then settling into the intermediate layer later on in the main basin. And this is our current ongoing study, which is a collaboration with UW-APL in an effort to increase subsurface observations. So we're looking at the small fronts that are associated with the tropical instability waves and their subsurface signal. So we want to look at what patterns characterize these tropical instability waves. Katie, our chief scientist, deployed SG-195 back in November, and we're hoping to get this glider back in the summer. The end date is currently tentative, but she's going to be using this data for her PhD work, which uses semi-autonomous surface vehicles for observing these fronts. These tropical instability waves are most common during the La Nina phases of ENSO. We really need Seagliders to study them since models under-resolve them and other tools don't have these subsurface observations. And in general, they're an important climate event to observe because of their air and sea heat flux implications, as well as the primary productivity in the cold tongue. So now looking at these plots, we have latitude on the y-axis, longitude on the x-axis, and then sea surface temperature on the top and sea surface salinity on the bottom. And this is showing how our glider is flying through these fronts from November to January. So now we're familiar with the surface observations. We can look at some of the subsurface observations that we get specifically from the Seagliders. Right, so here we have depth on the y-axis, time on the x-axis, and then our color bar is density, temperature, salinity, and oxygen. And we can see that tropical instability front very clearly in that black box, which is showing that the surface front features are extending 200 meters into the subsurface. And like I said, this was part of a study with UW-APL, but it was also a big collaboration with some other people, NOAA, PMEL, Oregon State University, and Scripps, all in an effort to study the evolution and dissipation of tropical instability waves. And finally, I want to touch a little bit on our data management goals and give a shout out to Victor, Pierre, and Laurent for all of their help with our data management so far. So our current 4 main goals is to provide accessible data in the CSV and NetCDF formats. We're currently working on developing a data lab manual, which is very important as we constantly have students graduating and we want to have best practices follow through every year of the lab. We're also working on some Python notebooks for transparent analysis and training future and current students. And finally, we have our data currently posted on the Student Seaglider GitHub, but we are exploring other hosting platforms just to make our data as accessible as possible. All right, with that, I'll pass it back to Sasha to talk more about some of the students coming out of this lab.
Awesome. Thank you, Lydia. And thanks to both Lydia and Victoria for giving us the overview of the tech and the science that is coming out of our lab. We're very proud of all the progress that all of our students have made. So So I want to talk a little bit about where our students go once they work with us as part of the Student Seaglider Center. And so we've had a number of students that stay in this field for their immediate job right after they graduate. And so we've had graduates that have pursued careers and also further studies in our field. We have a number of technicians that have gotten jobs with NOAA and Oregon State University, as well as Seabird, Scripps, and the Applied Physics Lab, and students who have also then gone on to PhD programs and graduate studies. And I just want to highlight one of our graduates here. This is Jace. He was a lead of our science team and is now working as a glider technician at Oregon State University. And this is Jace at UG2, where he got to reconnect with Lydia and share what he's doing at Oregon State. And this quote from Jace is really kind of want to highlight that he said he learned the technical skills that he needed to prepare him for a modern day career in ocean sciences at our lab, but also that there was this sense of community that was really valuable for him as well going into his career. So we're really excited to be able to train students with skills and experiences that they can apply to the next thing that they do once they graduate here. And so oftentimes this is unique experience that students don't often get when they are undergraduates. And I just want to make a short plug for several of our current graduating members who will be graduating this spring, that we've got lots of students who will be thinking about staying in this field. We've got our chief engineer, Ellie Brocious, who is an electrical engineering student, Layla, who is our chief business officer, Ziggy, who's our field operations lead and in oceanography, as is Ivan, our service lead. And then we've got a couple of technical associates, Jesse and Abby, Abby's been with us since she was an undergraduate, and then she stayed here to get her master's in oceanography and has remained involved with the center and is definitely a source of a lot of knowledge and has mentored many of our new students. I just want to talk a little bit about looking ahead and some of what we're planning and what we've been working on. This whole program is kind of a big experiment on how do we train students and effectively have them engage with gliders in technical and science and business space. So our current student leadership created a new course this past winter. So we're just wrapping that up tomorrow, will be our last meeting. And so we created this new class called Seaglider Basics. It's a 1-credit course, and it's entirely developed and led by our current leadership. So they taught classes on the things that they do in the lab. So here's an example of our chief engineer leading our session on ballasting and how that works. And then we have Aiden, our mission planning lead, led a session on mission planning, but we covered basics on piloting, budgeting, and how the different sensors work, and data analysis, and just highlights so that when we onboard new students, they can have a starting place. So this course was taught by our SSC leadership to 18 students. So we found that this was a way that we could kind of engage a lot of students who were interested in joining our lab. And we weren't sure kind of how do we, can we accept that many students? How do we onboard them? How do we make sure that they know what they need to know and they're not kind of like lost? So we taught this to 18 students, and we selected 11 of them to join our group next quarter. And so this is the first time that we are doing this. And we got a lot of positive feedback, both from students and from our SSC leadership, that actually teaching this course was really helpful for them to cement their own understanding of the things that they work on. And being able to teach is a really valuable way to increase your own understanding of different topics. So they created the activities and the quizzes and the slides and all of that stuff. So it's really great experience for them to work on that. And we rely heavily on peer mentoring. So in this class, but then also previously when we've added new students, we've assigned them a more experienced mentor so that they can kind of walk them through all of the pieces for the team that they join. And we're hoping that this course really gives students a broader idea of what the whole lab does in the context of those three teams, as opposed to just what the team that student joins might be doing. And then another thing that we are looking ahead to, so we have our kind of history of missions that we've worked on locally, but then our ongoing open ocean mission right now. And we are planning to develop a local time series that we would really like to run regularly in Puget Sound. So here's a map showing these proposed transects of our northern and southern lines where we'd like to run Seagliders in spring and fall over a full tidal cycle so that the students can get kind of a holistic sense of what's going on in the sound and how that water is moving. And it has lots of applications about circulation, movement of pollutants, different water quality characteristics. And so by doing this, we're hoping that we can really get student ownership over a long-term data set, and we'll be able to use this as a way to train students. If they get really good at doing similar transects and piloting those, then we can pass on that institutional knowledge a little bit easier than if we are always kind of doing different things. So we'd like to have kind of a baseline regular set of missions that we do, and then maybe we add an open ocean mission or something new on top of that, but that this allows us kind of a mechanism for training students with these regular missions. And it will allow us to kind of develop a time series of data that can support lots of undergraduate research projects or graduate research projects, and allow us to collaborate with our other undergraduate courses in field oceanography. So we have the oceanography undergraduate major here at University of Washington, so we can support those classes by sharing our data and supporting other research projects. For example, our senior thesis project we could support with this as well. So we're really trying to collaborate with different entities here in our school and our college, but also kind of thinking about how do we make training students a little bit more seamless and make sure that everybody is at the level that we want them to be at. And so with that, we'd like to thank all of our current and past members of the Seaglider Center. For sure, our awesome mentors, Charlie, Rick, and Fritz, so important and valuable for the students. We've received funding and support from the Student Technology Fee, from Dan Hayes at Advanced Offshore, the Applied Physics Lab, the School of Oceanography, and the Velitson Foundation. And then we also couldn't do this without the glider donations that we received from Christy Morganson, Sarah Webster, and from Charlie Erickson. So with that, we're happy to take questions about the structure of our lab or feedback or anything like that. So thank you for having us.
Thank you very much, Sasha, Lydia, and Victoria. It was an amazing presentation, very, very interesting, and you're doing an amazing job, really. I think if anyone has some question, you can ask them now. Eve?
I was just clapping because I'm very impressed. And I don't really have a question, but Laurent has
It's Laurent with.
well done,
Yes.
everyone.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, in fact, I have several questions. So first to Lydia, sorry, I can't have my camera on, I'm on my cellular. So I understood that you have been taking the course or part of the SSC since at least 2 years. Does it mean that you take the course several times or not? I haven't got that correctly.
Yeah, so I've taken the course every quarter for about 2 years, doing like 1 or 2 credits every quarter.
Okay, but so you increase your skills. The first year you were a basic, I don't know, maybe only an associate, and then you become a chief. That's the rationale for taking the course twice, right?
Yeah, the first couple quarters I took, I was associate, and then I think it was my
Okay.
third quarter that I became one of the leads.
Okay. So you increase experience. So, and the second part, so does a student can change role during the course, or it's when it is associate, he could jump to, he has to, he's stuck to that role, or he can go to science or to business. So
Yeah, I'll let Victoria talk about that because she actually did that.
okay.
Hi, that's a great question. I think I was the first one to switch. I started as on science, which was exciting, but I couldn't. I have a strong interest in the engineering side and the science side, and I couldn't decide which one to do. I chose science first, and I ended up switching to tech only because I felt I couldn't take two credits and do one of each, and I felt like there was a more like no other experience could I get my hands inside of a glider and get this technical experience while I might be able to get similar like coding experience or data like general data management, even though I wouldn't be working on the specific science, right, which is really exciting. And they were able to be flexible with me. And I think having done both has been really valuable because it helped me get a really comprehensive understanding of how the two teams work together.
And also to address your question about moving up into leadership positions, we're still trying to figure out kind of how we do that. Before it was like if a student was graduating, then we would say, okay, this leadership position is available because this person's graduating. So is anybody interested? And then this year we've implemented an application process since we're a larger group now, saying these are the leadership roles that are available. Apply for the ones that you're interested in, and the students have to write up kind of a short application, and then the current leadership will go through and assign new leads.
We have another question in the chat. Luis Alexander is asking about the Seaglider status. Is there a company building units commercially? Do the students in the lab work to develop new characteristics or capabilities?
We received like we inherited gliders, so we're not like doing a lot of the fabrication of new gliders. We do some repair of our inherited gliders. We are thinking about how do we add new things, but that's new for us. Whether we try to add new sensors or the students have an interest in hydrophones for looking for marine mammals and things like that. So that's we're not exactly sure on how we're building that out, but we're going to try.
And he's also adding, what about the ultra deep water version?
We don't have one of those right now. I'm sure it would be totally cool, but our business team should write us a big grant for that.
Next question, Celine.
Hi, thank you guys. This is an amazing program, and as a biologist who became a glider pilot, thrown into it in grad school alone, starting our little bioacoustics lab at Oregon State, this would have been like life-changing. So thank you for training all these wonderful new people, and yeah, it's just really amazing, and thank you for sharing it. It's really cool. My question is actually about how you guys got started. I really like how you set up the different branches and then how you assign everyone like a title and work through that hierarchy. Was that from the get-go that you set that up and said, okay, this is how we're going to do it? Or did that sort of evolve from a need over time? I'm kind of curious, the thinking behind that.
A little bit of both. So Rick Rupan, who's one of our mentors, he also advises the UW ROV team, and they have a similar structure where they have science, tech, and business. And so we took that loosely and applied it here because we thought all of those parts were important. But the specific jobs, at first when we started, we just thought, okay, we should have some leaders and we should have some entry-level positions. And so then we just had science lead and science associate, tech lead, tech associate, business lead, business associate. And then as we added more students and we've kind of realized that they start to take ownership of different parts, then those job titles came from the students where they were like, I think we need a field operations lead, and I think we need a service lead or a data management. Now that we have data, we should have somebody that does that. So that's been an evolving process, and we'll probably add some new titles as we find the need. We have a current graduate student who's currently our mission planning lead, and now that we have a lot of data and we have multiple kind of subgroups of students working on different projects with that data, I think we need like a project coordinator who's going to oversee and mentor some of those projects and have a sense for what are the current projects and future projects within the group look like. So it's an evolving process, and we try to incorporate as much of the student feedback as we can.
Hank has another question after I'm going to read other in the chat.
Yes, that was a really engaging presentation. Thank you so much. Incredible success story, really, from your lab. I sit on the UG2 subcommittee for training, and it's amazing how many parallel threads are going on right now with your program. And one of the goals for the UG2 training subcommittee, with all the other folks that are on it as well, is to really remain platform agnostic. So we have Slocum users and we have Seaglider users and all the other flavors of gliders. I'm wondering if you and your students would be willing to participate with our training subcommittee. And I think it'd be a really great opportunity to collaborate, with other glider users. And it seems like a lot of the coursework that you're preparing is also aligned with some of the projects that are working right now within the Marine Technology Society, which are trying to really build this micro-credential framework so that folks can have the, stamp on their resumes that they are trained professionals. So just wondering about your thoughts on that.
Yeah, totally. I think if the more we can engage with the broader community, the better, and that we can get our students connected with folks. And I think that we would have students that would be interested in the training subcommittee. We have been talking to MTS about the micro-credentials. When we first started the Seaglider Basics class, so this is the first time we've run that, we talked to Liesel about how can we align that with the micro-credentials. And so we're still interested in doing that. We wanted to see how it went the first time and how the students, like what the engagement was from our new students, and like if we needed to adjust things, do we need to make it more credits? Do we need to change our assignments? But we can be confident that the students get to the level that we think is necessary for the micro-credentials. But I think we're also thinking about doing this not just for our basics class, but we have the rubric that we could, check people off for the hardware and software sides of things to try to get our current members, not just our new members, checked off on micro-credentials. So that's definitely something that we're thinking about, and I think would be really useful for our students in professional development. So thank you for bringing that up, and please follow up with me about the subcommittee, and I can share that out with our group.
Yeah, thank you.
Jerome is asking, is your program somehow threatened by the recent major political decision in the US against ocean atmosphere sciences?
Not yet.
Not yet. And we hope not. Nick Rom also is asking, great presentation. Can you talk about your experience at the UG2 workshop? And then what additional resources from the broader glider community would be most helpful to you? For example, technical guidance, funding opportunities, access to datasets.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna, Lydia.
Yeah, I can talk about that. I loved going to the UG2. I thought it was very cool to have the different workshops, not just the lectures, and I really learned a lot about ideas for managing the data, which really helped me as I started my role as the data lead in the fall when I went back to school. So it was really cool to get just a bunch of ideas and hear from a bunch of different people, and primarily the workshops really helped me a lot. As for the resources, right now we're working with some of the Ocean Glider resources with getting our data up there. I think something that would maybe be helpful is kind of a process of cleaning the data. Like, we're not completely sure what we want from the cleaning data side. We have our quality control, but we're not completely sure if we want to be uploading all of our data, even if it's marked poorly on the quality control rating or things like that. So that would be something that would be helpful.
If Nick, you have anything else to add, you can ask.
No, that's great. Thank you, Lydia.
I have just a curiosity. So you said you started with 5 non-functional gliders, and then today there are 3 fully operational gliders. What happened to the other 2? Are you planning to repair them, integrate them, or not?
Yeah, I'm going to let Victoria take this since she's on the tech team.
Yeah, thank you. So the other 2 are still, yeah, the goal is to have all 5 functional. Sometimes we will transfer a part, like one of ours was experiencing a GPS issue, or sometimes we like switch parts around so we can problem solve on one and have still the majority number like fully functional at one time. And the Yeah, so absolutely the goal is to have them all working, and we have the ability, I think, in the near future to achieve that goal.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
that's
you.
part of what our tech team is working on, not just getting the functional gliders ready for the field, but working on our gliders that don't yet work. They worked in the past, but they've maybe been sitting around in the lab for a while and haven't been used.
And another question is about the time series. With which regularity are you doing the sampling? And are you only using gliders, or are you collaborating with other scientists maybe that do other kind of sampling like plankton?
Yeah, so our current plan is to do twice a year for a kind of 2-week stint, so that we'll have a lot of piloting for students to do. But in Puget Sound is really kind of well studied. We have access to buoy data that's close by. We'll have access to regular ship surveys, and also the live ocean model, which is run out of UW Oceanography, Dr. Parker McCready, and trying to work with him to see if can we incorporate our data or compare the model and the observational data as well. So yeah, we definitely want to use a few platforms. We'll be in charge of the glider part, but we want to integrate with other platforms.
Cool. Laurent, I think he has another question.
Yes, it's about, so between the 2-day deployment in the Puget Sound to a 5 months TPOS deployment in the tropical with complex oceanographic question on instability waves, there is a big jump. How did you manage it to make it? Were you fully helped by Sasha or other professors, or it was really something emerging from the students?
Yeah, so this was a project that took a lot of planning, mostly by our chief scientist, Katie Coleman. So she was using a lot of this for her PhD work. So she had months to plan. After we knew that our gliders would successfully go throughout a mission, we could kind of take this jump with a lot of assistance from Charlie and Fritz to get it 5 months in the ocean. So I guess that's kind of the answer. A lot of assistance from experts and a lot of planning.
Okay, good, great. And how do you plan to leave it at sea? Because I remember some deployment by Charlie lasting almost 1 year. So in terms of time scales for tropical dynamics, well, I don't know if it is worth having the glider so long in the water, but still long time series are better than shorter time series. So what are your plans for the future of the deployment?
Yeah, we're hoping to get it back sometime this summer. It's having a hard time fighting the currents, so it's going a bit slower than we had expected. We're hoping for somewhere around June, but if that doesn't work out, we also are talking to some cruises that are going by that could potentially pick up the glider. But
Okay.
all in all, we'll probably have about like a 6-month time series.
So now you manage a kind of a low power mission to avoid spending too much battery, or it's the because managing the batteries is something that demands some at least good planning in terms of battery load. So did you make that, or it was really Charlie's or other professor work? Because to
Like, did we
anticipate
plan
how the
out?
sense, yes, sorry,
Did we
go
like
ahead.
plan out how much battery use we're doing?
Yes. Typically, the sensor. At some point, you have to, if you want to have a long mission, you have to find a trade-off between the vehicle, the transmission, and the sensor. And since the only margin you have is sampling, a lower sampling, you lose data, etc. So you understand the problem. If you don't have a battery anymore to reach the place where you will be recovered, etc. So there are some, not difficult, but planning problems that demand some reflection. That's my question. So how you
Yeah,
manage that? So
we've definitely considered the battery a lot. We had more towards the beginning of the mission when we were really battling these currents. We turned down our wet lab sensor because it was taking up a lot of battery, and we thought it would be more useful to actually get to our targets than to get more samples. So that's something we've been playing around with. Charlie also has code for regression that shows kind of battery usage, and we've been using that a lot to make sure we have enough dives left to get to where we want to go. We've been playing around with its speed and just lots of things, just trying to optimize the battery. If we need to, we can turn off more sensors towards the
okay,
end if it's
perfect.
gonna like die or something.
Good. But typically on this question, you could imagine that, and so you are a scientist, so that software could be useful. And I see a strong possibility to couple what you are doing with other courses developing software. Did you intend to rely on support given by the student developing tools you need to improve the quality of your mission, etc.? So, and why not to go to automated piloting, things like that. So there is really an universe of possibilities based on this technical capability with the gliders to invent new things around the glider science. So what is your, maybe it's a question for Sasha as well. So how you see the future of the growing dimension of your approach for teaching students?
Yeah, just like, how do we see it growing in the future? I think we'd love to be able to incorporate more students. We'd love to give students more opportunities to train new students and give them leadership roles. I think we've been thinking about what capabilities do we want to add? Could we add hydrophones? Could we collaborate with other groups who have used different capabilities? Right now, we just have CT sails, optodes, and wet labs sensors. And I think just, there is kind of a sweet spot with how many students we could have. We can't be too big so that everybody kind of gets the support that they need, but also I think we can comfortably have between 20 and 25 students in our group and kind of know what everybody's working on and make sure that they all have stuff to do. So I think going forward, working on our logistics and onboarding and mentoring, but also how do we grow capabilities in what the gliders can do, but how do we manage our data and making everything kind of transparent. So, Lydia's developed some code where you were asking about battery and, what's the amount of time we have left on that glider and how does it inform the mission. So things like that, making, Python notebooks available with how we are analyzing and plotting our data, I think is a way that we want to grow that. And it will also make it easier to train new students so that they see examples of the data management and analysis.
Thank you. Last question, Margarita. We are reaching. May I?
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if you have students or professors from European universities, but in case you inspire people there in Europe, how you see a kind of transfer of methodology and knowledge, etc.
Yeah, I had a similar question to this. In fact, like, what were the biggest challenges in establishing the Student Seaglider Center? How did you overcome them? And what would you say to people that would like to do the same in Europe? What suggestion would you give?
Yeah, I think, one big challenge was just like organizational. Like how do we manage all the students and make sure that they know what the expectations are and that they have the resources to learn these things. And so that took us, a year to figure out how do we get a glider operational enough that we could put it in the water. And we relied a lot on Fritz for technical support there. And I think now we've got a better idea of what are the important tools that we need. And I think also the micro-credentials rubric is mirroring a lot of the important aspects about training. And so I think that the organization piece and also just the hurdle of funding, where we were like, okay, we have these gliders, but we couldn't get them operational unless we were tapping into some local funds. And I think that that's probably going to be a challenge for us going forward, is how do we keep applying for the UW student tech fee? Do we look for other sources of funding? How do we have kind of a sustainable program in that way? Because at some point our gliders will, be obsolete and we need, newer technology. We also only have Seagliders. We'd love to maybe incorporate some slocums in there so that we can have students with different, have experience in both. But I think when you're just like managing a group of 20 students, just really being intentional about the organization and the educational design there, because it can be really easy for students to kind of get lost in the mix and not really know what they're doing.
So Hank has left, but I got the point about the subcommittee on training at UG2, and for sure we will try thinking hard on this to develop something similar in Europe, so we can maybe inspire the teams we have in Europe, because at the moment I suspect that we are really far in our universities to establish something similar. I know well what is being done in the UK, Norway, France as well, Italy, and there is a long way to establish something similar. So we will have to support people to help them, and hopefully with your contribution, we could manage something. But definitively training is something totally crucial. So the way you approach the problem is really, really inspiring. And I hope you will be inspiring my colleague in the European universities.
Yeah,
thank you anyway very much for your presentation, Sasha, Lydia, and Victoria.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was really, really inspiring. Just a last thing, if Georgia, you have any announce that you need to do to the community, UG2 in general, maybe you can do it now before we go, if you have anything.
Just a few announcements. Thanks, everyone. And thank you also. This was a really amazing presentation and a really amazing program. Just a few quick updates from us. We will have a UG2 webinar at the end of April, which we focus on battery safety. So just keep an eye out. That date and time will come out hopefully in the next few weeks. And then the biggest announcement is we did just release the save the date for our next UG2 workshop, which is in May 18th to 20th of 2026. So you can put that in your calendars already, but we will be publishing a lot more updates in the coming months via the UG2 Slack and also the website. And then this seems like a great group just to say that we are submitting a town hall abstract to Ocean's MTS, which is in September this year in Chicago. And this will be very focused on pilots and technicians, kind of a Q&A session on tips and tricks. So
that's also upcoming for us too. But that's all. I'll keep it short and sweet.
Amazing. Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for participating, and thank you Sasha, Victoria, and Lydia for sharing this amazing presentation. We hope we can take inspiration from you. Thank you. Have a nice day or evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Au
Thanks,
revoir.
everybody.
Last thing, Sasha, if you can send the presentation to me and Georgia, maybe we can charge it on our respective websites.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much,
Bye.
and thanks for having
Bye.
us.
Bye.
Bye bye.